Okay, now. Okay, once again, 안녕하십니까? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to the Korea-Germany Digital Health Technology Cooperation Forum today. My name is Sussane Passow, and I'm working for the Frauenhofer Representative Office in Korea in the field of life science, and I'm really happy to be your moderator today. Very good. So then I want to express my deepest gratitude to all of you that you took the time to come here to attend and also to actively contribute, although you have very busy schedules. And I'm really happy now to start the forum. We will start with the opening session. And first of all, I would like to welcome the German ambassador to Korea, Mr. Michael Reiffenstuel, to give his welcoming remarks. And I would like to start with a big applause to Mr. Reiffenstuel.
I take this. I will tell you in a moment why I take this one, because we had a similar session where I was putting my notes on the computer, and then I always was touching my notes, and I didn't realize that actually there was a slideshow going on. This is the reason. So, dear Director General Park, dear Chairman Chung, dear Dr. Weiler, distinguished colleagues, guests, ladies and gentlemen. In recent years, the topic of digitalization and health has become a boom topic in science and business. A major impetus was certainly given by the corona pandemic, and it gives us also an inkling of how helpful the smart use of data will be in fighting diseases and treating patients in the future. The pandemic, in this regard, had something positive because it has opened a gateway, or at least it has opened it much wider. Of course, experts have known for some time that medicine is a field particularly suited to digital transformation. For the layperson, this is often difficult to understand. Medicine is a field that drives to a particular degree on the fact that patients trust their doctors. And now, more and more computers are taking over. Big data is supposed to replace years of medical experience. Computers will give impetus hints via digital twins before even a surgeon is allowed to operate. I guess, at least in Germany, we all will have to adopt a lot in the future, also myself. But of course, digitalization in medicine also offers enormous potential above all. Treating patients will become easier, better, and more targeted. And because health is such a precious commodity, there are also great opportunities for commercialization. Digital health is an area where a lot is happening in Germany. The regulation also brings new opportunities for South Korean companies in the field in Germany. Our country also has traditionally been very strong in health research. We are very optimistic that we will be able to repeat the success we had, for example, with BioNTech. Unfortunately, everybody worldwide only knows it as Pfizer, in the production of the mRNA vaccines, also in the field of digitalization. We have large corporations as well as many hidden champions and startups dealing with digital health. Just 14 days ago, for example, we had a delegation from the German-Korean Business Forum here that was interested in cooperating with Korean startups, and I learned from them they were very satisfied with the results of the trip. Above all, Germany has a very active research landscape in this area. The activities of some Fraunhofer institutes were already presented at this conference last year. University hospitals are also active in research, and many startups are formed out of them. Today's event focuses on the activities of the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft in this area. However, we will be also hearing presentations of new developments in South Korea. Fraunhofer is very well established, by the way, you know, in South Korea. Professor Park, you are welcome. And also very well represented by the Fraunhofer representative, which I mentioned. You can also see the importance attached to the field of digital health, but the fact that Dr. Weiler has come all the long way from Germany to South Korea to have talks here. I'm confident that today's event will provide good impetus for the German-Korean cooperation. Many thanks. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Now we will hear the congratulatory address by Mr. Park Tae-yong, Director General at the Ministry for Trade, Industry and Energy. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Good afternoon. I am Tae-yong Park, Director General of Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on the opening of the Korea-Germany Digital Health Technology Cooperation Forum. I'd like to express my gratitude to Ambassador Michael Reifenstuel from the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany in Korea, who prepared this meaningful event today. My special thanks go to Fraunhofer Representative Office Korea and today's participants. Since the establishment of diplomatic ties, Korea and Germany have established cooperative relations in various fields such as politics, economy, and culture. Through the Technology Cooperation Forum, which held last year virtually, we confirmed Germany's excellence in material and equipment technology, and we also discovered opportunities for further cooperation. This year, today's forum will provide us an opportunity to share the R&D status of the two countries in the digital health sector, and we will create opportunities for global cooperation. With the launch of new government, Republic of Korea had set a national task of becoming a global leader in bio and digital health under the goal of creating a dynamic economy led by the public and private sector. The government has a plan to foster the digital health industry as a major area of the bio industry. Against this backdrop, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy is also trying to secure a foundation for future growth by demonstrating the development of integrated healthcare services that combine ICT and health management. In that sense, as we will share technology development with the Fraunhofer Society, which is a leading institute for applied science research, I hope that today's forum will serve as a driving force for technological cooperation between the two countries. Once again, I'd like to congratulate you on the opening of today's forum and wish you health and happiness to all who have taken valuable steps online and offline. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Park. Now we have the greeting address by Chairman and President of the Korea Evaluation Institute for Industrial Technology, Mr. Chung Yang-ho. Please welcome him with a big applause.
Hello and welcome. I am Yang-ho Chung, the President of the Korean Evaluation Institute of Industrial Technology. First of all, let me thank you all for joining us on the Korea-Germany Digital Health Technology Cooperation Forum today. It is an honor to have the opportunity to address such a distinguished audience online and offline. I'd like to express my gratitude to the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany and to participants from the industry, academia, research and medical fields who are working to advance the digital health industry that can create various new data-based medical technologies. The development of the digital health industry has served an important role in changing the paradigm of existing medical devices and services through convergence technologies, including big data, AI, and ICT, and through the creation of customized personal healthcare service. In line with the emergence of promising new technologies that can facilitate this paradigm shift, KEIT is making significant investment in the development of biohealth data-based convergence services and the next-generation healthcare technology. KEIT is a government funding agency in charge of planning, evaluating, and managing national R&D projects related to industrial technology. Its R&D budget, 2.9 trillion won, is almost 10% of the national R&D budget for 2022, or 52% of the R&D budget of the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy. Over the past 5 years, KEIT has funded a joint international R&D project worth 263 billion won through 125 projects working with 22 countries. Especially in Germany, KEIT is providing support for 20 joint international R&D projects worth 43 billion won to 10 institutions, including the Fraunhofer Institute. KEIT will continue to facilitate diverse joint international R&D initiatives and will keep on supporting the development of big data-based convergence services, namely digital health-related disease and genomic information, and the development of digital treatment devices at the core of next-generation healthcare technology. I hope that this forum will serve as a platform for mutual technology transfer and the development of international cooperation between Korea and Germany. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tong. And now we have already the photo session. And the first presentations, I would like to welcome Dr. Byung-won Park, the representative of the Fraunhofer Representative Office in Korea, and he will give you an introduction to the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
안녕하십니까. 프라운호퍼 한국사무소의 박병관입니다. 여러분 오늘 오신 것에 대해서 진심으로 감사를 드립니다. 제가 독일 기관을 대표하는 관계로 영어로 프라운호퍼 소개를 준비했습니다. 이 부분 좀 양해를 좀 부탁드리겠습니다. Welcome again to the conference today. I would like to welcome you all on behalf of the Fraunhofer Society. I should not talk too much today, but I'd like to take this opportunity to briefly introduce Fraunhofer Gesellschaft and Fraunhofer Institute to you. Fraunhofer is a public institution. It is the largest research institution for applied science in Europe. And the 76 Fraunhofer institutes are doing applied research, and these institutes are spread all over Germany. You can see we are in Berlin, Munich, Stuttgart, Dresden, Aachen. We are spread very well over Germany. And the annual budget amounts to 2.9 billion euro, from which 1/3 is financed by the government funding. And the rest, 2/3, is funded through contract research. If you look at this picture, it looks familiar to other Korean institutes who do a lot of contract research. But the specialty of Fraunhofer is that half of contract research is done by industry research. That is so-called Fraunhofer finance model. The budget, 2.9 billion euro, is financed 1/3 through the government funding. This assures the continuity and assures the scientific excellence. And 1/3 is financed by public project, which assures the pre-competitive research. And now, the core part is the industrial contracts. It takes 1/3 of the total finance of Fraunhofer. It is very rare that the research institute finances over 1/3 through industry research. And Fraunhofer Research Institute have this obligation, and there is a reason behind. There are many findings and many inventions in the world which are not innovations. The findings can only be transformed into innovation if they are applied to humans, to the people. And it happens in the market, and the industry companies are the direct players in the market. And Fraunhofer has this obligation to do research which has impact on innovation. That's the obligation which 76 Fraunhofer institutes have. The 76 Fraunhofer institutes do research almost all over the topics of applied research, from ICT, microelectronics, materials and science, and last but not least, health research. Health is becoming more and more important. It was the case before COVID-19, but latest at COVID-19, we know that health research is really crucial for the human life. And the case which then Ambassador mentioned, the collaboration between German BioNTech and American Pfizer, showed us how crucial the international collaboration is. They brought up the first approved vaccine, probably the most successful vaccine for against COVID-19. So, from our institute, around 40 institutes are dealing with health topics, and from which 6 institutes are very dedicated to health topics. And one of these institutes is presented today by Dr. Weiler. This is Fraunhofer MEVIS. There are also then other institutes. And we will hear Fraunhofer IIS and Fraunhofer FIT later. And in this sense, I am very pleased that we could co-organize this event together with Oh-KEIT. If you want to know more about Fraunhofer, you can find us on the website. Every Fraunhofer Research Institute has English homepage. You can Google it and you can have a look at it. And if you have any difficulties, you can come to us and we will help you to get right partners. Without further ado, I would like to then hand over to the next speakers. Thank you very much. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Mr. Park, for the presentation. Our next speaker is Mr. Kim Yong-man, Director at the Ministry for Trade, Industry and Energy. He will talk about digital health industry ecosystem and policy direction in Korea. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
Okay. 안녕하십니까. Guten Tag. I don't know whether the German language is right at this situation, but this is the only the German the greetings I know. I've had an opportunity to study in German language in my high school, but unfortunately I had other options, so But now I think I regret, and I'm very sorry. I should have studied my German language at that time. But however, now it's the time I have to study the German language to cooperate with the German counterpart. So my name is Youngman Kim. I'm a director for the Bio Convergence Division in MOTI. So on behalf of the ministry as well as the governments, today I'd like to introduce the Korea's government policy direction on the digital health technology issues. So, today this is not a detailed picture. It's kind of the snapshot, but however, I think it's very fruitful and very concise for you, our counterparts, to understand what's going on right now in the Korean government and the business ecosystem. So the contents that consist of the three parts. The first is the digital healthcare industry status, and second is the digital health industry policy, the historical background, and third is the digital health industry promotion strategy, which mainly focused on the promoting the Korea's digital health technology, biotech, as well as other service providers. So first, I'd like to mention the digital health industry status in Korea. So before I started, that this is not only the digital health industry status, it includes all the other areas like pharmaceutical and medical device and healthcare. So the biohealth industry is very promising new industry. We believe that it has a great potential, and the job creation as well as other social purposes like public health. So especially the biohealth area the growth rate is very higher than the main industrial sectors such as shipbuildings and automobile. So Korea's government, my ministry and other Ministry of Health and Welfare are eagerly making the policy program to accelerate this kind of development in the biohealth technology. So in the employment impact of Korean won is 1 billion increase in production. It will contribute 60.7 people in biohealth, but it's larger than the other sectors in the job creation sector. So in the next, this is a kind of some numerical index of the digital health industry status in Korea. So this is based on the kind of the survey conducted by the Ministry of Industry as well as the Association for the Digital Health Industries. So we surveyed over several hundred industries directly, and we have some snapshots and the overall picture on what's going on and what is the status of the digital health industry. So when you see currently the sales revenues and their business the performance, the digital healthcare sales revenue is 1.35 trillion Korean won, and especially intelligent health management service among them is covered 55.6% among the whole 1.35 trillion won. So currently the mainstream of the Korea's business in the digital health industry is kind of intelligent healthcare management system service provide a kind of during a kind of a wearable device and other applications is served a kind of some health management services to the various people, including the old peoples and other working people, as well as the families, something like that. And the second is human resources. So among the employees in this the digital health industry, 47.8% of industry the people are the researchers, and among them the 20.1% of the people has the master and the doctorate degree in the human research. So this means that the digital health industry is kind of some very high needs, high level human resources concentrated. And the third is that the kind of experience. It means how long they conducted their business in that sector. So digital healthcare field experience is average 5.9 years. So it's very the kind of emerging sector, kind of very new, not old. So that it has much potential to the develop in the future. So when you compare it to the human, it kind of still it's a child or the infant stage. So we need some kind of the programs to nurture this infant industry to some kind of more the grown up industry. And fourth is investment is so that this shows that this industry's characteristic is R&D expenditure ratio is 87.2%. While a lot of the venture capital the analysts would like to recommend and consider that the investment in the number one is healthcare services. So this so in the not only in the government funding area but also in the business sector and the commercial sectors, digital health industry is a very attractive the area to invest from the commercial area. And the second is digital health industry policy status. So this shows us some kind of historical the background of our ones. So first is that we declared in the 2019 some national policy that the biohealth industry innovation strategy, which covers not only the digital healthcare but also as a pharmaceutical and other medical device, as well as legislation and funding, then R&D projects, something like that. In that programs, our Ministry of Trade and Industry and Energy targeted the four main areas, the four pillars. First is technology development, and second is licensing, and third is production, and fourth is market launch. So each pillars consist of kind of the overall the ecosystem in the biohealth area. So the technology development is we kind of some big data, and we expanded the government R&D much more, and then provided some kind of tax aid program. And the licensing issues that this is kind of the regulatory affairs, and the biohealth industry is closely linked to the kind of this the licensing and approval issues. So we would like to make more easier or to make faster the acceleration in these licensing issues. And production is also the very good, very important area which we can get some kind of competitiveness in the internationally, so that when it comes to the pharmaceuticals, the development of kind of the pipelines is important, but also how we can produce the good quality as the CMC, and the production is also very important the factors. And the 2020, the Korea started to the kind of some regulation reform the program called kind of some sandbox, and the 15 regulations are being improved through the establishment of a roadmap for regulatory improvement. And then so the provision of regulatory sandboxes and special regulatory free zones for the demonstration purpose in the biosector Also, this in here, digitalhelskeer is also the main area. So we in Gangwon province, we designated some cities as regulation-free zones for the testing and field tests for the digital healthcare services. And also, when you see the left side, so the remote medicine, or whatever we call that, the non-face-to-face medical services, which are very controversial right now in the politically or as in the socially, but currently Korean government is considering to make the non-face-to-face or remote the medicines, the service is more can be provided more the wider. In this situation of the COVID-19 pandemic, when we have a serious stage for the epidemic, then we can allow that this non-face-to-face medical service process can be offered. So currently, it's the temporarily we can using, and so the people and patients can use this kind of non-face-to-face medical services if they are from the local hospitals. But however, it's not fully allowed in Korea in this section. But however, currently the Korean government is considering how we can have some kind of coordinated system to allow this the remote medical service system currently. So the Ministry of Industry, from the point of view, our ministry, we think this kind of non-face-to-face medical service is a very pivotal factor for the accelerating our digital health technology development. And the 2022, the May. So this is our new government's the national agenda. So our government new government national task is leaping to a global center for bio and digital health as internationally. So that this consists of the three main pillars. So we will develop and promote the smart healthcare services, and also institutionalize the non-face-to-face treatment with some conditions maybe. And third is a digital health system the improvement, including the R&D and other the regulatory affairs. So this kind of a movement will keep going on under the new government. Okay, so the last part is I would like to introduce some detail of the Ministry of the Ministry of Industry and Energy and Trade are conducting some of the programs which we announced the February of this year. So the whole government budget for the 2022 allocates 6.3 trillion Korean won to the biohealth and semiconductor and future automobile, and of which the 39.7% will be allocated to the biohealth sector. This is a whole government, the cross-cutting, the R&D program. So when you see the picture, biohealth budget is increasingly rapidly, and among the MOTI and other main programs, the biohealth sector covers a very large portion here. So support from our ministry is mainly focused on the commercialization phase and the discovery and demonstration of new service models like a field test, and then production infrastructure to support the test analysis, trial production, and demonstration. So that we have other government, the ministries, also kind of Ministry of Health and Welfare, also mainly focused on the clinical test trial the stage. Also, Ministry of Science and Technology also focused on the basic and fundamental technology in the biohealth sector. So kind of the division of labor that working in the among the government ministries. But however, in some point, kind of the national, the strategic R&D programs, we are closely cooperate and working on as a one team for development of new pharmaceutical drug and the new medical device. So this is the main contents of our administrative program. So we announced the strategy to foster digital healthcare service industry. So our vision is a creation of digital healthcare service industry ecosystem, not only as a service provider, but also covers the front stage and the later stages covered. So the objective is to demonstrate the cost effectiveness of digital healthcare services and to lay down a groundwork for the widespread adoption of digital healthcare services. So the main core task is first is just strengthen market creation support. So it's very weird, so market creation, but in Korea, as you know, the digital healthcare service providers are emerging, but however, due to some regulatory affairs and other some kind of a business, the prices, the issues, because currently Korean people, old Korean people are covered by a public health insurance the program. So how we can reconcile those the public healthcare insurance with this kind of a private service provider is a kind of some issue. So this issue, so that our ministry is targeted to the support the development of kind of some business model can keep working on in the in the market, in our market. So government would like to act as the initial role is to facilitate this kind of the development of a kind of business model. So the second is the data-based convergence healthcare device development. So this needs the digital health services needs a kind of combine the technologies kind of from the semiconductors and ITs and other the data mining and processing or something like that. So this kind of the devices and then the kind of the technology is also very important point for this data-based convergence healthcare device development. And then third is laying down the groundwork for the activation is a base for the. So we are considering in the government level to establish kind of some new legislation to deal with digital healthcare services, the promotion in the government level, and then we would like to expand our convergence, the human resources training. So nowadays, as you know, that the digital healthcare sector needs a very high level and the convergence type of the human resources, which knows the bio affairs as well as the IT affairs and the data or something like that. So this is also very important for our other the industrial areas. So this is some more detail of the development of convergence healthcare services. So digital treatment devices, I've seen from Fraunhofer, the institute. I've seen the expert from the digital medicine is also today he attended this meeting. I think it's very crucial for the exchange our views on that area. Currently, our digital therapy devices and as well as the digital DTX, so-called DTX, digital treatment issues are also very important. And currently, we are by the government R&D, we are developing the kind of devices, and we expect in this year, maybe the first case of digital medicine will be approved from the KFDA. So that's the expectation. And also the mobility-based remote healthcare service and the physical emotional assistant healthcare service. So for the various categories of the devices are developed by the commercial sector as well as the government level. And the link to the ground worker activation, I've just mentioned, as I already mentioned, that we would like to cross the government ministerial level support system and the legislation and the human resources to bolster our institutional support, so that so by doing this kind of institutional improvement, maybe the commercial sector and private enterprise can have some kind of confidence to develop the digital healthcare technology and service. So this is very crucial. I've heard that in Germany has already have some legislation and law governing and dealing with digital healthcare. So I think it would be a very good benchmark for we can refer to that one. So we believe that today we can exchange it very meaningful and then constructive view on that point too. And maybe this is the last one, maybe the promotion of market creation. So our ministry is trying to test the kind of the big field test, large scale demonstration project, so-called to show that the efficiency of the healthcare. So currently it's under the planning stage, not actually started, but we need some the kind of the budget process for this kind of a big the demonstration project. But however, Korean government is trying to focus on show this kind of demonstration project in the near future. So we believe that already in the commercial market we have various devices and service model, but the problem is how to establish some self-sufficient business model in the commercial area. So in that process, maybe the government can play a role to the connecting those kind of the missing point in that one. So this is the brief of the current status of the digital healthcare and the current policy ones. And thank you very much. Danke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kim. Now we move on to our second session. And I'm very pleased to welcome our next speaker, Mr. Weiler, who came all the way from Germany. Mr. Weiler is senior researcher at the Fraunhofer Institute for Digital Medicine in Bremen in North Germany. So he is used to this kind of weather. Yeah, and probably 10 or 15 degrees colder. Anyway, yeah, I'm very happy that you make the way all here. And your talk is on collaborative research tools for advancing AI-based computer and diagnostics. Please welcome Mr. Weiler.
Yes, thank you very much for the kind introduction, and thank you very much for the opportunity of being here. It's a great honor to me to be able to present to you part of our research, and also I will start by giving a small introduction to our institute, Frauenhofer MEVIS in general, what we do there. The title of the talk is, or the focus will be on collaborative research tools, because we think that collaborating in just gathering data, processing data, and then extracting information from this data is an important step for getting further with this. And let me first show you quickly our institute. This is a new building that was only finished last year, and we moved there in April. And we call it the Workshop for Digital Medicine. It's a very futuristic building, very pleasant place, and we are happy to go there. And the aim is really to, in this place, not only have researchers work and do their daily work, but also invite doctors, clinicians, have workshops, have meetings, and really advance the field of digital medicine. Our institute is dedicated to digital medicine. We are a non-for-profit institute with a focus on applied research, and the original institute was founded already in 1995 in Bremen by a mathematics professor, Professor Heinz Otto Peitgen. He had previously been working on fractal mathematics, and at some point met a liver surgeon who we talked with, and he pointed to him that these fractal structures that he generated with mathematic models show a large similarity to actual vascular structures in the liver. And then that set the idea to actually start applying their methods from mathematics to medical imaging data and really set the focus for the early years of the institute. We are quite proud to have a large global network of clinical and scientific partners with whom we work with. And one reason for why we have this is that in Bremen we don't have our own university hospital. So in the very early years we were forced to really reach out and get into contact to other clinicians. And this has now the advantage that we are not really focused on one side, but have contacts to a large network of hospitals worldwide. As of January 2009, we are now part of the Fraunhofer Society, and the Fraunhofer Society has already been introduced. I see my numbers here are slightly outdated. It still is Europe's largest organization for applied science. And I think, as Mr. Park mentioned, it is now 76 institutes with about 30,000 employees, very mostly spread throughout Germany. At MEVIS, we are currently about 100 researchers, plus I would say about 30 people from the administrative team. We are spread around 4 places in Germany, with the MEVIS headquarters being located in Bremen, near the Northern Sea. And then we have groups of people working in Lübeck, Berlin, and Aachen. Our purpose can be summarized to helping doctors mastering the exploding complexity in healthcare and to achieve improved outcomes more often, faster, and with less cognitive load. And what really motivates us here is actually the increasing complexity that we see in medicine in general. With our ever-progressing increased understanding of pathologies and diseases, there are new diagnostic and therapeutic tools become available on a regular basis, and these need to be handled by the doctors in hospitals, typically in a frame of a more and more cost-efficiency-driven healthcare system. So what we try to do, where our focus is really developing software solutions that help to address dealing with these methods by intelligently integrating and interpreting data. This slide shows a little where on what scales we can offer services as a research institute. Basically, we can start at a very, very low level, doing basically feasibility studies or small projects. We can advance this to developing specific algorithms and delivering this as software components that can be integrated then into other systems, which can nowadays also just be a trained AI model that can then be further used. We can ourselves develop such models into functional software prototypes, which are often used in, for example, smaller clinical studies by individual doctors or for publications. And these are then typical isolated functional prototypes with user interaction, which can do the whole thing. But we can also take the last step and develop out of such prototypes fully quality assured medical software products that are basically ready to be put into the market. This is a slide that has a slightly different view on that scale. If we look here at the typical product development cycle in a software system, then what you see here, all the green areas are those that we have expertise and can offer support in, and the 2 blue are the fields that we typically don't cover. It starts off usually with ideation workshops. We often meet with doctors and in a first stage really just try to understand their needs and their medical problem. Let us explain what is the background behind the task that they want to solve, what is the data that is available, and then together with them sketch out ideas for solutions. That can also then lead to first feasibility studies, case studies on a very low level. When then out of this a demonstrator is created and these ideas take more precise form, we can go into a pre-product development, develop prototypes that are used can be evaluated on a larger user base. And then, as I mentioned, if such a prototype matures to a level where it says this could be a medical software product, then we can go the last step and actually turn this into product development, which sometimes means rewriting an algorithm from scratch, then from a more software quality assured perspective, but at least already knowing exactly how to solve the given problem. What we then deliver is software that is qualified by the IEC 62304 standard, which is required by the FDA and for CE certification. We are, as an institute, certified, I think, since 2005 to be a certified medical software developer. What we then don't do is take this software actually to the FDA. This is where we need industrial partners that bring our solutions into the market. And what, of course, in the context we also don't do then is actually distributing the software and doing field support. We come back into the play when actually supporting and doing the software maintenance, bug fixing, and so on. And then it basically goes on. Here's a slide that gives an overview of our primary industry partners. And the top three are maybe the most noteworthy. We have a long-standing cooperation with Siemens Healthineers. We've developed, or many of our algorithms have found their way into the Siemens Syngo radiology system so maybe if you're a doctor and you've used a Syngo system, then it could quite well be that you've already been in contact with one of our algorithms because they are hidden inside there. We have now several year ongoing cooperation with Varian. We did a software support system for biohealthcare that they use in conducting clinical trials. So we basically offer a system that allows them to do web-based reading of cases and collecting, analyzing the data. And then it goes on. And as you see, or as Mr. Park also already introduced, having strong industrial partners is just a key element for Fraunhofer Institute. I would like to give a little insight into where our focus lies on then currently. If we look at different fields from digital medicine, then our focus is not so much on the upper part, on individual risk assessment or health monitoring, which probably is a huge market, but we really try to improve the fields of precision diagnostics and precision therapies. And here we have 6 main areas where we focus our research in currently, which are accessible dynamic imaging. On the one hand, we have a group of MR physicists that do actual research and development and developing MRI sequences and improving them. We have a group focusing on AI-based precision pathology. In the field of therapy, there are many applications, but in general, what is interesting is to increase interventional effectiveness. So develop software solutions that really support radiologists, surgeons during interventions. Another huge part that we have a long history in is doing efficient tumor follow-up. So basically monitoring therapy response, tumor growth, and so on, in primarily, of course, in the field of oncology. One field that is connecting both of this is the field of clinical decision support, and I believe that this will become even more important in the future, because basically what we do is, or what is done is creating insights gained from supported diagnostics, and then from them generating suggestions on how a specific therapy could be, and really offering a doctor assistance in his clinical workflows. And now, as in the last years, the whole field, all these areas have been basically turned over by the developments of AI. This is now also changing our approach to this. And as a 6th field has now come to us for us new, the development of a collaboration toolkit for AI-based research in health data. And here, I would like to start a small excursion into a bit more scientific slides and show you how actually we approach generating AI-based solutions. And I would like to show you a bit of some of the challenges that we face in our daily work then. I picked an example from the field of diagnosing or detecting renal cancer. So the goal would be to train an AI model that is able to segment structures, organs, also lesions from a C-arm CT image with the goal to generate an automatic measurement and qualitative assessment. The data shown here comes from a challenge that was carried out in 2021. Now, what actually happens when an AI model is trained on this data? How does the AI learn how to extract the anatomy? Well, first it needs images. And then for these images, it needs a reference. It needs segmented organs. But here already the first thing comes into play. What actually is such a reference segmentation? Practically, I hope you can see this. This consists of very, very many contours that are often manually drawn by medical experts on the individual slices. And so here you see 4 data sets only with the segmented structures, but to the AI model, this is already a couple of thousand structures on a couple of thousand slices that needs to be managed. And now practically, there can be many complicating factors in gathering and in managing such data. First, the data itself needs to be collected by doctors. It needs to be made accessible to the technical experts. One hurdle that sounds very easy is to anonymize such data, which can be technically easy, but in practice is a huge problem when you need to negotiate with data protection experts at the hospital and also with technical hurdles to get data anonymized and decide whether it can be allowed to leave the hospital on one end or maybe processed inside the hospital. Such data needs to be reviewed by experts, but also by doctors or AI specialists, and see if the annotations work. The actual process of generating these annotations can be very time-consuming, depending if you really start from scratch and an expert draws them manually, or you already have some algorithmic pre-processing that can facilitate the process. The small diagram in the upper corner shows a protocol sheet from this challenge, which describes how the data for the challenge was generated. And you can see that it is a multi-stage process where, in this case, 5 people were involved in processing every single data set. The first is a medical expert, a doctor, which basically only marked the structures that were to be segmented. So maybe the most expensive and the most skilled person in the process would basically just say, this is a lesion, and ignore this one. Then there were medical students that basically added this with more details, which gave guidance on the actual segmentations, and they would precisely say, mark until this border, and so on. And then there were, I don't know, I think undergrad students or people who did the actual delineation, basically the cheapest people in the process, which then generated delineations for 3 different examples. And this is just to demonstrate how complex the process of really getting quality annotations that can be used for machine learning can be. Now, when these segmentations are there, they unfortunately usually don't come in one nice complete package, but rather they come in batches. Their number increase over time. Over time, data may come from more than one site, or actually this is very desired to get a heterogeneous data set used for learning. Some cases will probably have to be excluded because they have some or another problem that is not suitable for learning. And then the algorithm itself needs to be performed, applied, needs to be evaluated or shared by people. And in general, this whole process just requires a lot of communication. And in this process, a lot of also different versions of the same data sets will require that need to be handled. I think I need to speed up a little. Our approach to doing this technically is to basically have data storage that stores data, images, annotations, and so on, and then provide a unified interface for different applications to access this data through a dashboard, which is typically a web-based front end from where individual processes are started. So in this case, the first step would be to start an annotation tool that would access data from the data pool and as a result store segmentations and maybe also annotations, tags, ratings for this data back again to the same data storage. Then as a next step, a training process can be triggered, which is again controlled from the dashboard. The training process loads data from the data storage, performs its machine learning, and then puts back a model back into the storage. And here we have a service attached that allows logging the training process that is also integrated with our dashboard, so that basically during the training you can already see if the model is making good progress, or if anything goes wrong. Yes, then such a model can be used for performing classification on specific images that get inside there, and this can then, of course, or should for evaluation purposes, be data that has not been used in the same training process. What is very interesting in the scientific field is to actually compare and technically evaluate models with another. And there's been an approach in medical imaging, the grand challenges, that goes on for many years, where basically scientific research groups from all fields can compare and compete their algorithms against each other. And we've also created a binding to such system so that for a specific model, we can define evaluation data sets, then perform the evaluation on this data set and store the data back, for example, to the grand challenge site and see how it compares to other group results. Yes, and then finally, as a last stage, there are clinical prototypes that are then basically the last thing that you're interested in, namely making these results available to medical users. And at that point, often such a prototype can also be used again for correcting results of the network, for example, and feeding that back into the loop. I will have a few words on that later. Okay, now I'm going to show you an example application that we built for this, and it's a customized web-based front end basically. We call it Satori. It is a highly customizable annotation tool that can be configured for many specific different clinical workflows. It is web-based, so it comes with all the basic tools that you would expect for a radiological image viewer. So it allows importing images in standard data format. It can automatically categorize images, for example, by MR sequences or body regions. It offers user management, customizable hangouts, and so on. And then basic annotations tools, that's the standard set. And then it can be extended through specific modules that can, for example, mean apply a specific AI model to a data set, or use a specific customized annotation tool for performing manual analysis. And here on the side, you just see 3 examples, very small screenshots of applications that we built using this toolkit. This is again a slightly different slide that also shows the process that we go there from data curation, so having a toolkit to collect, annotate, and view the data, then the second step, and train models and evaluate models, and finally bring these results back back to clinical users. I would briefly give an introduction to one specifically interesting project that we have been working on that was initiated shortly after the outbreak of the COVID disease. The project is called Raccoon, and this stands for the Radiological Cooperative Network. It is in Germany quite a unique project in that for the first time it connected the radiology departments of all 36 university hospitals in Germany in a way that they can use the same software and exchange data results. As I said, this was motivated by the outbreak of COVID, basically prepare to better handle comparable situations maybe in the future and analyze data in the field of COVID. Until now, in this project, in the cohort, 14,000 chest CT images have been collected, covering both COVID-19 but also other lung diseases. They have been analyzed then with AI models on the data and also been used for training new AI models. And until now, 2,800 of these CTs have been actually fully segmented from this cohort. So that is a very rich and valuable data set for performing future learning processes. Technically, again, what we have implemented there together with other groups is to set up a decentral system where within each radiology department of such a hospital, a Raccoon node is installed, basically a standalone system that includes all the processes that I showed earlier. It has its own data storage, and the learning can be performed inside the hospital. But then there's also a Raccoon Central, which is used to coordinating processes and exchanging results. We're currently not at the stage where we are exchanging actual image data because there's big data protection hurdles. But we are working on solutions to this. Now here's a small video that just shows this tool interactively. What you see here is how from a loaded lung CT image, first the result of the lung segmentation is performed. After the lung segmentation, it can be manually edited or then accepted for further processing. Now we perform a segmentation of the lung lobes, and I think this is one more. It is a bit sped up here, so it's a bit slower in real. Then it also presents findings that suspicious areas in the lung that were already detected and highlighted by the AI model. Again, these can be modified or manually accepted, and then from this you can generate renderings, or of course also perform further analysis on what that means for a specific case. So I come to an end. I would like to present you two of our current technology goals that we are actively working on in this field that we think are particularly interesting. The first is implementing in situ correction, or basically a training loop in such a process. So to not take data, train an individual model and finish with this, but rather have such a model continue learning increasingly. So there's a great value actually when a doctor uses a software and does a correction on the tool. It can be frustrating from the doctor if the model does not learn and he needs to do the same correction again and again. On the other hand, we can use this information to feed it back into the training. And we do this in a way such that not really just the modified data set is sent back into the tool, but actually the area that has been changed by the doctor. So we have then, in addition to the original segmentation, just basically minor differences, hopefully minor corrections that were used, and we can utilize this also in the training process, because then networks don't need to be retrained again and again, but rather they improve by specifically learning the areas that until now they were not so good in. So that can really be used to also improve the quality of the AI result. And in this context, we actually think that corrections in this context are particularly valuable because they really can help improve the quality. The other technology goal that we have is to implement federated learning, which is there's very good motivation for. Basically, federated learning means learning in different locations on different portions of a data set. And one reason would be that it could be implemented in such a way that data never has to leave the hospital, but rather only a trained or partially model trained leaves the hospital. So while the images may not be allowed to leave, the model could be sent, and then basically a model could be sent from one site to another, and at each site be continue learning based on the data seen on this site and then sent on, and over this time improve again and again. Technically, this is not so challenging. That is, the models have to be capable to support this and have to be updated, exactly. But there are, of course, also practical hurdles. Still, there are data protection issues or issues on implementing such data sharing, which are not the same, of course, in every site. It is a question of trust also. Even if you guarantee that basically only a trained model leaves the hospital, then still this comes from a system that has access to the image data. And a general issue in AI is that it is very difficult to actually look inside a model and understand how the works. And then also you may need adapted training strategies for specific questions. But in general, these two things are fields that we find very interesting currently for improving AI-based learning. Yes, and with this, and slightly over time, I would thank you very much for your attention. And yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weiler. We move on to the next presentation. And I just want to mention that we might skip the discussion session after this because we are now running late and we have some online guests from Germany. But I don't think that's a big problem because we can just move it to the dinner reception and then can, if there are any questions, we can maybe then solve them or discuss them later on. Okay, the next speaker, I'm very happy that Mr. Shin Dong-hoon, President and Chief Executive Officer of Huron, an AI diagnostic solution company here in Korea, has agreed to give a presentation, to be here. And welcome him with a big round of applause.
안녕하십니까? Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Dong-hoon Shin, and I'm the founder and CEO of Huron. Recent research has confirmed that neurological disorders are becoming a major global cause of death. According to the WHO, stroke was ranked as the second highest cause of death, while dementias were ranked 7th. Due to these critical concerns, pharmaceutical and therapeutic markets have begun heavily investing in the market of neurological disorders to develop novel therapies. As of last year, the CNS disorder industry has reached a global market value of $124 billion, and with a continuous average growth rate of 7.4% by 2028, it is projected to almost double in value to $205 billion. As neurological disorders are becoming more recognized as one of the major causes of death worldwide, it is urgent for us to find methods of detecting and treating this disease. Because of significant increase in central nervous system patient numbers and importance of its early diagnosis, artificial intelligence in medical imaging is newly introduced, and the healthcare industry is undergoing a radical shift. So, what are the benefits of use of artificial intelligence? Time efficiency, analyzing big data, and early diagnosis are keys to successful digital transformation, shaping new medical practice. As the graph shows in the middle, new market growth for software development is significantly increased in diagnostic area every year, and we believe that every hospital will have one or two of AI solutions later in the future. Importantly, our focused areas of radiology, oncology, and neurology occupy significant portions of global AI market share, followed by chest and cardiology areas. Huron is a company that provides AI solutions focusing on CNS disorders such as stroke, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and brain tumor. Due to the lack of treatment or cures for CNS disease, it is important for the early detection of these disorders as quickly as possible. For this reason, our software utilizes CT, MRI, and PET imaging techniques to train our algorithm. And now it is possible to track those physiological changes within brain assessed by AI-powered algorithms. The benefits of adoption of these AI algorithms are doctors can be provided quantitative information about CNS disorders and reduce heavy workload of imaging assessment and make less of error diagnosis from fatigue and stress so that general patient care can be improved. We will walk through a few examples of our solutions and related disease today. For our first solution, I will be introducing stroke. A stroke is a medical condition that occurs when blood flow to the brain is blocked. It is currently the second leading cause of death, where 101 million people in the world are living with after effect of stroke, and 12.2 million new stroke cases reported each year. There are two types of strokes. The first is ischemic stroke, which accounts for 87% of all strokes. Ischemic strokes occur when blood flows through the artery that supplies blood to the brain becomes blocked. That prevents brain tissues from getting oxygen and nutrients. Eventually, brain cells begin to die in minutes. Since it is a medical emergency, prompt treatment is crucial. Currently, for most of cases, intravenous artery infusion and mechanical thrombectomy can be performed to remove blood clot so patients can restore blood flow to the brain and avoid life-threatening situations. Hemorrhagic stroke, on the other hand, only account for 13% of all strokes. Hemorrhagic strokes occur when blood vessels break and bleed into the brain. As a result, the part of the body controlled by the damaged area of brain cannot work properly because of destruction by mass effect of outpouching thrombi from artery. There are few treatment options. Strict blood pressure control and removal of compressing blood clot by neurosurgery are great examples. While traditional diagnostic workflow requires a few hours to perform urgent treatment due to step-by-step approach. However, by using our AI-integrated solutions, we are able to diagnose and get patients to treatment as early as possible. Time is most important in the treatment of stroke, and researchers estimate that around 3.6 years of life per each hour will be lost if a stroke is left untreated. By shortening the diagnostic time, we are able to treat stroke patients within golden time, resulting in reduced disability and mortality for patients. As time is critical and essential for stroke patients, our C-stroke solution reduces the overall workflow of stroke protocol to improve the quality of life for patients suffering from strokes. Our comprehensive non-contrast CT stroke triage solutions can be used in primary or secondary hospitals without stroke specialists to detect thrombectomy candidate and transport to thrombectomy-capable hospital. Even in tertiary hospitals, it allows for faster response where an automatic 2-minute analysis for stroke can be performed by using non-contrast CT scan images. As hospitals are able to quickly receive reports for stroke patients, it allows doctors to quickly identify both hemorrhage and large vessel occlusion, as well as calculating aspect scores to measure the degree of damage caused by an ischemic stroke. Importantly, this stroke is supported by a mobile application that allows physicians to be notified about emergency stroke cases. Additionally, it helps physicians securely communicate and diagnose stroke patients prior or upon patient arrival for treatment decision support. Another example I would like to introduce is Alzheimer's disease and our corresponding solutions. Alzheimer's disease is the most common type of dementia that affects memory, thinking, and behavior, where a definite cure is not currently available. To detect Alzheimer's disease, doctors usually conduct screening cognitive tests, and to confirm and establish a baseline about the degree of degeneration, brain imaging tests usually are performed. From those imaging, such as MRI and PET scans, doctors look at three things: abnormal burden of beta-amyloid protein, tau protein deposition, and the atrophy, also known as brain shrinkage. While all three findings can occur naturally with age, people with Alzheimer's dementia tend to have much more intense development of beta-amyloid protein and tau protein deposits, as well as severe brain atrophy, than healthy individuals. The importance of Alzheimer's disease stands as the prevalence within the past 2 decades has nearly doubled from early 2000 to 2020. This prevalence is expected to continue to exponentially grow, where by 2050, it is estimated that 106 million people will suffer from Alzheimer's disease. Deaths from Alzheimer's disease have increased by a total of 145% each year, and for rough estimate, 1 in 3 seniors will die with the disease. Since many are affected by Alzheimer's disease, this becomes a huge burden for government and family, which bases from skilled nursing care, home health care, and hospital care for direct cost, and poor quality of life and personal burden for indirect cost. Thus, it is important that as we get older, we should pursue a healthy lifestyle that can eventually help to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia. For accurate diagnosis and tracking progression of Alzheimer's disease, we have developed a few software to analyze the amount of beta-amyloid and tau protein deposition in the brain. We currently offer Beta Finder and Tau Finder software for the quantification through the use of both MR and PET scans. Especially, pharmaceutical companies and pathology research centers can adapt our solution to effectively measure brain changes that are affected by therapeutic drug testing and monitored for new discovery of real-world scientific evidence through a longitudinal study. Another common sign of Alzheimer's disease that is detected in MR image is brain shrinkage. For detection of brain atrophy, our A-Finder solution provides a conclusive report of the volumetric change and cortical thickness of 98 segmented brain regions. This report and measurement of individual brain regions can be used as a reference indicator to compare brain atrophy from brain volume of healthy control group and its relation to neurodegenerative disease such as Alzheimer's dementia. With introduced solutions, our aim is to provide AI-powered solutions specialized in central nervous system disorders to local hospitals and research centers so that clinicians have a more comprehensive approach for disease management, better coordinate care plans, and help patients better manage and comply with long-term treatment programs. Taking Huron's solution can significantly improve hospitals' workflow and prevent radiologists from burnout by automatic analysis of high volume of MR, CT, and PET scans for CNS patients and those at risk. In conclusion, we will be continuously engaging with top KOLs around the globe for accurate software development and extended research areas so that Huron can act as a center of empowering scientific community and delivering quality of care for patients and loved ones. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shin. Now, our next speaker is Mr. Min Chol, and he holds a position as Secretary General at the Korea Digital Health Industry Association. He will give a presentation on the current status of digital healthcare service demonstration in Korea. Please welcome him with a big applause. Yeah, okay.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I am Min-chul Bae, Secretary General of the Korean Digital Health Industry Association. Before we go any further, allow me to introduce our association briefly. Korea Digital Health Industry Association, KODIA, has been established since November 2017. It is an incorporated association approved by the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy. It is led by 71 corporate members representing the Korean digital healthcare industry. 39 individual members from universities, hospitals, research institutions, and others are also participating and support the revitalization of the digital healthcare industry. Our goal is to promote the digital healthcare industry and contribute to strengthening national competitiveness. Digital healthcare has attracted worldwide attention and seems to be in the early stage of growth. Various digital healthcare services have also been developed and demonstrated in Korea. Today, I would like to talk about the types and the current status of digital healthcare services developed in Korea and measures to enhance demonstration. Digital healthcare is a representative technology convergence industry. Various products and services are being developed using ICT within the large healthcare category, driving the servitization of a manufacturer based on data. Let's take a look at the types of the digital healthcare services in a series of entire healthcare cycles: prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and management. First of all, there are well-listed services that utilize personal healthcare equipment for prevention and management. These are B2C services. They are typically aiming to iron out obesity, which raised the prevalence of chronic disease and mental health problem, which is a social issue recently. For example, continuous uses of smart bands can increase by applying a reward system to working applications, or we can get customized consultation through a diet management mobile healthcare application by entering food and exercise-related information, and then selecting a coach. These are provided by adding the so-called human touch. Mobile app-based psychological testing and psychological consulting services, kiosk-based healthcare services specialized in public health, and services that provide nutritional information by AI recognition of food photos are also catching our eyes. Patient services are also provided through a B2C or B2B2C. These are the services that help patients mostly having chronic disease and cancer to manage their health at home and mediate telemedicine. There's also a service that allows you to measure and manage blood pressure and breathing just by using a mobile app without separate equipment. These services may be provided by Weiler or by getting a license for medical devices. Solutions used to mediate telemedicine in Korea must be licensed for medical devices, and telemedicine service platforms are rapidly increasing over the corona pandemic. As health management to improve corporate productivity is emphasized, employee assistance program for healthcare is also attracting our attention. Service companies make a reservation for their workers and provide customized content and healthcare services through mobile applications based on their life logs, reflecting the results of medical checkups and lifestyle. To provide such services, service companies establish collaborative relationships with multiple health examination centers and secure corporate customers. This is a typical B2B2C method of service. And one of the emerging types of digital healthcare services combined with digital transformation is software as a medical devices. Digital therapeutics is a case in point. They are not drugs, but they are software that cures illness and improves health like drugs. According to the Korea Society of Digital Therapy, the number of promotions for clinical trials of digital therapeutics in Korea is about 40, and 10 out of them have been approved and trials are in progress. There are also various indications such as insomnia, respiratory disease, depressions, panic disorder, eating disorder, anti-smoking treatment, and orthostatic hypotension. No company in Korea has been approved for digital therapeutics yet, but companies licensed for software as medical devices such as AI-based diagnostic support software and medical image analysis software have been designated as innovative medical device companies. These companies will receive various benefits such as clinical evaluation utilizing medical institutions or reduction of fees when utilizing finance policies of the government and services of the high-tech medical complex. Although wellness services are not the target of regulations from the Medical and Medical Devices Act, software medical devices and telemedicine services are subject to regulation. As they are new technology and new service, they do not meet existing regulations or are even prohibited. So the government uses special regulations to provide a demonstration environment of service. Remote monitoring services for patients with heart disease using wristwatch type ECG and for rehabilitation of people with neurological and musculoskeletal disease using smart gloves have been demonstrated through regulatory sandboxes and verified their safety, stability, and clinical efficacy. Telemedicine services for overseas citizens are also temporarily authorized. The government also runs regulatory free zones in units of regional local government. Gangwon Province and Daegu City have been chosen as special zones for regulatory freedom in digital healthcare and smart wellness, respectively, and demonstrate new services in local communities based on ICT like data, IoT, cloud, and artificial intelligence. In the bioindustrial R&D project promoted by the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy through the Korea Evaluation Institute of Industrial Technology, KEIT, diverse services in the digital healthcare field are being developed and demonstrated. This year, various demonstration-oriented R&D projects are undertaken, such as digital therapeutics, demonstration support by groups and industry to expand the public-oriented healthcare service market, and development and demonstration of a digital healthcare service to expand payers. Prior to those, our association pursued on-site conferences between companies and the government last year. Through this, we informed the government that companies are having difficulty entering the market, even if they develop various services and recommended the necessity of a pump priming policy based on large-scale demonstration. This is because it is an early market with a weak institutional framework, so people can easily open their wallets to digital healthcare services only when they actually feel the effectiveness of large-scale demonstration projects. These proposals were well reflected in the strategy for fostering the digital healthcare service industry published for the whole ministry earlier this year. The digital healthcare service industry is one of the new industries that the government has been promoting, called Big Three. A remarkable part of the strategy is the service commercialization promotion support project. Not only R&Ds, but the government also plans to discover innovative service projects of domestic digital healthcare companies and promote them to enter the market successfully through active demonstration support. Our association is promoting this program with the support of the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy to support companies for their early performances. At the same time, we plan to lead the development of the digital healthcare service industry by building an online marketplace connecting demand companies and suppliers, hosting prime matchup events, researching the industrial status, and so on. Thank you for your time and attention. Have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bell, for your presentation. Now we have our first online guest from Germany. Now it's very exciting whether the technique will function. So I can say some words. It's Professor Thomas Berlage. He's actually Institute Director of the Fraunhofer Institute for Applied Information Technology, FIT in Sankt Augustin. And yes, he will give a presentation on healthcare in Germany as a data ecosystem, and I can see him already. Good morning to Germany.
Morning, everybody.
Yeah, perfect. Then you can start. Yeah, yeah, despite he is in Germany, we can give a big applause.
So thanks a lot. It's a pleasure for me to be able to speak to you today. And it's also a pleasure for me to tell you a little bit about most recent developments in Germany in terms of digital healthcare. Just for my person, I'm a professor at Aachen Technical University, but I work for the Fraunhofer Society. I'm involved in several activities, digital healthcare among the whole of Fraunhofer. In particular, initiatives that focus on data exchange between different actors in the healthcare system. And that's what I would like to report to you, how healthcare technologies can be connected through a data ecosystem. Next slide, please. So let me first tell you a story. So it's becoming more and more clear that for personalized cancer therapy, for example, that it's actually beneficial for patients to directly exchange data. So why is this the case? So traditionally, cancer treatment would be you diagnose a certain type of cancer, then there's a standard rule of which therapy you want to apply. Then you maybe evaluate. But you know, cancer patients have no time, and in the recent years, several new therapies have been developed that really focus on variants of cancers, and which variant of a cancer a patient has can be uncovered, for example, by genome sequencing. Therefore, you see on the left side, it's not only traditional pathology, but also genome sequencing, of course, coupled with patient data. And the reason why you need to exchange data is because there's a real large data set, and you need to interpret the genomic variations. There can be many, many variations of a particular patient, of a particular cancer, and you need to compare that to other patients. And we don't have enough data, and we can't wait for a scientific study. So what we do in Germany, in Europe, as well as in the whole world, is to do genome sequencing of the cancer, to monitor the therapy, monitoring the patient at home, monitoring patient data during therapy, to have first-hand information about which therapies are effective for which cancers, so that the healthcare system can immediately learn from current patients for the next patient. And cancer patients are very willing to have their data applied for helping others if it doesn't help themselves. So, and you can imagine that there are only a few hospitals that can do this, but you need all the data of all the hospitals and all the data you can accumulate over the whole of Europe. So in contrast to what has been practiced right now, you need to quickly exchange those genome data together with the patient history. So next slide, please. Now all of this meets a healthcare system that, let's say, is least optimized for digital transformation. Because in Germany, the healthcare system is extremely decentralized, so patients freely choose whichever healthcare provider they want to use. The providers are independent, and there's just reimbursement method, so everybody can do the therapy. If they are accredited, they can be reimbursed, which of course makes data exchange difficult because there's no central agency to collect those data. And the second thing is in particular that resident doctors and hospitals have completely separate agendas and completely separate reimbursement systems, making it very difficult for them to exchange data. Nevertheless, it's extremely important that we do this, and Germany has recognized that. So what we have to build is a so-called data ecosystem. A data ecosystem is not just a technical structure, but it also needs to be a legal structure, a regulatory structure, really allowing different legal entities to exchange data under data protection laws, and so on. So we have, as you can see on this diagram, we have doctors who need access to data both from different health records, that need access to data from the genome sequencing lab, and that need access to data that are monitored using devices from patients at home. Next slide, please. Now, there are several ongoing developments for data sharing, and there's not, let's say, just one single ecosystem that can be built, and we distinguish therefore between two different kinds of healthcare. So the first kind of healthcare, according to patient needs, is called the episodic healthcare. The other is called the longitudinal healthcare. So what is the difference? Well, the episodic healthcare is if you're young and healthy, you are responsible for your own health, you have a fitness tracker, you make sports and you're active, you choose the right nutrition, you're interested in wellness and fitness, and whenever you get ill, like a broken leg or a virus infection, you really want to conveniently get a healthcare service which will resolve, hopefully in a very short time, but you have to go to different healthcare providers. Maybe you have to go into a broken leg, maybe you have to go to an emergency hospital, go back to your resident doctor. And therefore, the digital transformation, the data sharing is really oriented according to a message paradigm. So one doctor sends information to the next doctor along the patient path so that the services are synchronized. And patients have electronic portals where they can really follow this process, or where they can give permissions, where they can forward messages. So it's really a customer-driven digital ecosystem, like in finance, in shopping or whatever. And in Germany, we basically have developments according to this strategy. One is the so-called health telematics infrastructure second version. The first version is a little bit old-fashioned. The next one to go live in the next 2 or 3 years will be along the other domains like finance and shopping. We'll have electronic prescriptions, electronic discharge messages. It's under continuous development. And one element of that would be electronic patient record. The problem with that is a little bit that people want to do everything using one application, and we suspect that this is probably creating trouble. So we're trying to focus this electronic record to particular use cases. One of the things that also, let's say, compares to what we heard in the previous talk is that in Germany, digital health apps, so for digital therapies, can actually be paid by the insurance companies. But for now, there's no standard data exchange. So these digital health apps are isolated concerning their data. So we have to do something about it. But the thing I want to report you about is the second, is the longitudinal healthcare. And this is, if we take the case of Alzheimer, for example, the patients are seriously and chronically ill and permanently need help. And in many cases, patients are old and patients really need to be guided by a healthcare system. So patients are really interested in survival or in risk mitigation and in keeping quality of life. And we really want to have in healthcare system an excellent therapy. So the best therapy we can do, of course, also should be cost effective, but it should provide quality of life. In that case, we are not looking at a customer-focused episodic infrastructure, but we're looking really at a disease management kind of level. Where the data is collected to really supervise and monitor a patient. And in particular, these data and these applications that you need for that will be disease-oriented. And I'm presenting you an example on the next slide, which is a very simple example. So we'll continuously develop more complex ones, but maybe it's for explanation, it's a good idea. So we have established a longitudinal health record for glaucoma patients. So glaucoma patients have a certain risk based on their eye pressure. So if the eye pressure is too high, then the glaucoma will progress and patients will become blind over time. In particular, there are pressure changes. So some patients have a high pressure at night and a good pressure a day, which means the high pressure at night gets undetected. Therefore, as you see in the lower left corner, there's devices that control the eye pressure. And previously, you had to go to a hospital for 3 days to get measured continuously. Now we have devices that can measure at home. So a very nice digital technology can actually be used by patients, but you need to collect the data continuously. And you see that on the right side, just an example of eye pressure values, where you can really supervise the eye pressure values. You can also collect data from eye imaging, where you look at the retina status from time to time, and where you control the progression, and in case something needs to be done, either the medication has to be changed or you need some form of surgery, it will be decided as early as possible so that the risk of blindness is avoided. And on the other hand, this platform is not only used for disease monitoring, but it can also be used for study purposes. So you can have data quality management associated with it, and you can really do observational studies, which are sometimes very interesting for pharma companies who want to know how their drugs that are applied in practice, how their effectiveness is, or whether there are any problems with drug compliance. So this is one example, but it needs a separate web-based system that spans both the IT systems of the doctors and the IT systems of the hospitals. We have shown that this is quite easy to establish and that you can exchange data in this way. So we think that this is an important future type of applications that need to be created. Next slide, please. So let me try to sum this up in a slightly abstract way. So there's a project which, because of time constraints and because of a lot of details, I'm not telling you about the Genome.de project. You see the link at the bottom, so you can look at that information if you're interested. So concerning the cancer use case we had in the beginning, Germany wants to establish such a data ecosystem for genome medicine, not only for cancer, for rare diseases and other diseases in the future. And such a system, on the one hand, that you see on the left is data exchange is not only a technical problem, but data exchange, if you really want to use those genome data, then you need very carefully controlled health records. You need very carefully controlled patient data at home. So all the clinical partners need to build a network of excellence to really harmonize their treatment procedures, to harmonize their data capture, to harmonize their quality control. So that's being established. So you need an organization that really aligns the different therapies, which, as I said, is quite new for the German healthcare system because there's no centralized agency that can control this. And the second thing is, which is also new for Germany, but is of course much easier for institutions that have a central health service. But in Germany, we need to build the role of both service providers. That means companies that establishes services like the previous one. So you need someone to run a system, to run the web application, to keep the data and to continue development. And you need trustees and governance bodies. So for patients to exchange data, you need to make sure that the security of this kind of system is really in place, in particular for things like record linkage, where you collect data together, which of course has high risk for these kind of sensitive data. So that's the situation in Germany. As I said, if you're interested in this Genome.de projects, I can provide further detailed information. So we're currently in the process of setting this platform up for the health ministry. And next slide and last slide, I can report about next developments in Europe. So the European Commission has just published a proposal for a European health data space regulation. European Commission really wants to establish a legislation to allow this kind of data exchange all over Europe. That means under this legislation, all the care providers will be required to collect medical data and to make it available to their patients. Software providers, technology providers who store healthcare data will be required to support standard data exchange protocols, and that will also apply to medical devices or digital medical applications. So they will need to be able to communicate according to standard protocols. These data will be available to any party that has a legitimate research interest. So this can be private, this can be pharma companies, and this can of course be medical research units. That's also the intention to make these data available as widely as possible. And the European Commission will also establish cross-border platforms, and they will be distinguished between primary use, that is use for healthcare, and a secondary use, which is use for research. And there are already a number of pilot projects on the way. As concerns Genome.de, for example, there's already an initiative to build a European genome archive, of which there is a German node. And of course, the German node will interact with Genome.de to make German genomic data also available to other parties in Europe. But all of this will only happen if the patients consent. So we really believe in patient sovereignty to use their data. But as I said, that in particular, chronically ill patients have a high willingness to really provide their data for further uses. And with this vision, with this development process, I thank you for your attention, and I'm open for any questions.
Thank you very much for this interesting talk, Professor Berlage. And I open the floor now for questions here, like only offline, unfortunately, because online is too difficult for the interpreters. Are there any questions from the floor, from Professor Berlage? Mr. Renner?
Yeah, well, my question would be, you stressed that this is a European framework. Are there possibilities for non-European countries to join into these European data projects as well? Especially as Korea is joining the European research area as well, so that could be an interesting opportunity for Korean researchers as well.
Yes, that's, in my opinion, definitely possible. So there are, I think, these European Commission joint research programs where I think Korean partners can participate, and of course, Korean companies acting in the European Union, they can also be used as technology partners. And in terms of validation. So if you have digital healthcare products that you want to bring to the European market, then of course you're welcome to establish, let's say, sort of a residence or a collaboration agreement with some European partners to be able to validate your technology and to make it or to connect it to the European infrastructure, and certainly Fraunhofer Society, one of our roles is also to help, let's say, foreign actors to also collaborate in the German and in the European market. So if you're interested in this kind of collaboration, you can of course contact me or the Fraunhofer offices for further discussing these kind of agreements and projects.
Are there any more questions? Yeah.
Thank you very much for your question. I'm Jae-Yong Shin from Yonsei. I have one question about digital therapeutics. So Germany is very famous for the policy named DiGA, so Digital Healthcare Act in 2020. So I'm wondering how you are actually evaluate the clinical effectiveness or engagement of patients in your data, I mean the health information system.
Yeah, so the maybe you know already that Germany has decided, let's say, to allow these digital applications already being used, and the evaluation might be delayed. So your responsibility is to collect those data while you use the application, and if you want to have a continued reimbursement, you need to evaluate that. And there, let's say, there is a a certain set of evaluation criteria that is used in the German healthcare system, which is of course mainly set by institutions that are concerned with healthcare effectiveness evaluation. That's not, let's say, a single body that defines exactly how that evaluation is going to take place. But most certainly what you need to provide is make a study with a number of patients and being able to provide, let's say, the effectiveness and the typical way, of course, to establish that would be a randomized study where, let's say, half of your patients are treated without your applications. And for that, of course, a platform like I showed you for glaucoma is sort of a necessity in the sense that you need to collect some data exactly for these study purposes. And you need to have a certain number of patients. So in our case, in that studies, we need at least 500 patients to make statistical evaluations that the therapy is at least equivalent to the previous therapy. So again, we can provide you some contacts with more details about how this evaluation could actually take place. But as I said, one is a, let's say, classical design of a clinical study, and the second is you really need to collect the data using a data platform where you can quality control your data, which needs this common data platform. But most probably you have something like that already. Unless you really have a device that's completely local in the sense that it's completely running on the local device and doesn't have a network connection, but that's probably rare today.
Any further questions from the floor? Okay. I just recently read a newspaper article, also German newspaper article, that this electronic medical record is very difficult for Germans to accept, or a lot of people don't know about it, that they can spend their data. So yeah, you as an expert, what is your opinion on this? How can one improve the kind of distrust of Germans in this?
Germans have traditionally a little bit, because of their historical past, a little bit difficulty in accepting data being, let's say, collected by the government. So there is a certain distrust, and the distrust is strongest, of course, with people who are healthy, who really don't need data sharing. But the distrust is very low for, let's say, cancer patients. So the first thing, of course, is that we start to support those people who are really willing to share their data, and that's really quite a number, I would guess. And the second thing is, of course, that for the others, on the one hand, we need to prove that we can securely exchange data. So that's a function of using the right technology. So there's a lot of data breaches in other domains, and the likes of Facebook and Google collecting data, which makes German people very nervous. But if we can demonstrate that we can actually securely collect data, and we can collect them in a decentralized fashion, I'm pretty sure that we will over time convince also the majority of the others, if they can immediately see the benefit. And that's one of the problems of the electronic health record. So the EPA in Germany, the use is currently, let's say, minimal for the patient. So it's not actually providing much benefit as of now. And that, of course, doesn't make people willing to actually use it and makes doctors unwilling to install the infrastructure without having any benefit of it. But that's why as I showed, that we have to focus on particular area, on particular diseases where we can immediately show the benefit, and that will also apply to medical devices or to medical therapeutics. If you really see that data collection helps with your health, then I think people will accept it the same as they accept, let's say, posting at Facebook, at least for a majority of Germans, even though they know that data are shared, but they have a benefit of it. They get the benefit of social media. So we need to establish that benefit in healthcare, and of course, studies are a very good way of showing that a technology actually increases the quality of life, and that's of course our common goal, I think.
Thank you very much for this answer, and also for presenting and taking time, also taking question. And yeah, we wish you, well, I know that you have another commitment soon, so have a safe travel, and yeah, hear you soon back.
Okay, thank you all, and if you
okay, then we are a little bit ahead of schedule. But I still would like to move on to the last session, the fourth session. Yeah, okay. And this will be given by Dr. Kim Yon Chang from Yonsei University. Please, yeah, come and talk. And Mr. Kim will give an introduction to digital therapeutics and its platform in Korea. Please welcome him with a big applause. Okay, we need to install, yeah, load the presentation again, so we have a little bit time.
Okay, thanks for inviting me to this important event. It is my great honor to present our new project to facilitate the DTX development in Korea. Today, I'm not going to introduce individual DTX service. Instead, I'll introduce our new project developing open platform for digital therapeutics. This project was initiated by the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Energy, and also by the Korean Evaluation Institute for Industrial Technology. This project aims to create a sustainable digital therapeutics ecosystem and primarily help the DTX companies, mainly the startups, to develop DTX service more efficiently and easily enter the global market. For this purpose, we need the governance and construction of the operation, and we also need some linkage between the DTX service to our medical system, and also need some support in licensing and insurance policy. And we will also support the international cooperation. And finally, we have to manage our platform smoothly. Mainly, this project consists the 5 individual sub-project, and I'm the PI of the #1 project, the Open Platform Development Project for Digital Therapeutics. So I mainly introduced the project 1, and there are also other projects. The project #2 is Digital Therapeutics Platform for using metaverse, and project #3 is the real-world evidence-based DTX development. Sorry. I'm sorry again, there are some technical issues. Okay. The project #4 is digital therapeutics development for the allergic disease, and the last one is DTX development for neurodegenerative diseases. The project #1 is to build an open platform which support the entire process of DTX development. For this project, we need establish the global standard process of digital therapeutics development, and linking our system to the hospital information system of individual hospital, the more specifically OCS, Order Communication System, and the EMR, Electronic Medical Record. And finally, we have to support the digital therapeutics company because most of the DTX companies are small startups, so they don't have enough experience or manpower. So we need to support them make their own business. This figure is an overview of the DTX development platform which we want to make. We hope that all hospitals and various users, including doctors, patients, and research staff, and also the DTX company and related public organization, all of them actively and effectively use this platform. Thus, we have to create a platform which can safely collect data from patients and manage the data safely from doctor, patient, and the evaluation process. For this project, we identify 3 keywords and 10 individual tasks. The 3 keywords include the framework, and second one is open platform, and the third one is service portal. But I'm not going to explain in details of the 10 tasks, but we identify 10 tasks, and we have to complete this project within the given 4-year plan. I will talk a little more about the 3 keywords. The first one is the app, the framework. In framework, we will develop the standard process of DTX development for the entire process. And second, we will develop the guidelines for the 4 steps of the DTX development. The first one is the mechanism of action, and second one is the product manufacturing, and the third one is the verification of the developed DTX process, and the final step is the commercialization. And we have to also develop the competency enhancement program for DTX startups. Second keyword is open platform. It implies that the platform should be easy to participate in, and the platform should be continuously used and can be extended to various users and stakeholders. For this, we need to develop the linkaging the system from our platform to OCS and EMR. Basically, the use of DTX service begins with doctor's prescription. This requires doctors to be able to determine whether individual patients are indicated for certain DTX service. And for deciding this, the doctors should search and compare all available treatment options, including the conventional drugs as well as digital therapeutics. And the platform also should provide doctors with information about the regulation by the government or insurance coverage by the health insurance company. And after prescription, doctors also want to monitor whether patients are still using the DTX service, and also wants to know the service is effective and safe. We will develop based on FIRE the system, collect and manage the data, and which can be easily applicable to other EMR system. So we want to develop this distribution on open API platform, which can be linked to any EMR system in Korea. Let me show an example of DTX in real-world practice. This video is captured from our hospital information system, where doctors prescribe the insomnia DTX service at our Severance Hospital, and also the doctors can prescribe in the OCS system and check the patient history in the EMR. And we will make this service as an open API, which can be applicable to other health information system in Korea. I'm sorry, but most of the picture is in Korean language. I have to apply. Actually, originally I was told that I can present in Korean language, but later I was told that I have to present in English. So some of our slides are not readable and not so understandable. I have to apply again. The third keyword is S, meaning the service portal. We are going to develop a service portal which can be customized based on the user's needs. In the near future, we will be able to provide many service items which covers by the metrics of the 3 keywords and the process of the DTX development. This can be one example. We want to increase the utility of DTX platform by monitoring several features. The left upper corner is the service monitoring in Korean language. The first, we want to monitor how many DTX services are suggested and how many are in development process and how many are in operation in the real world. And you want to also monitor individual DTX service utility, showing the number of patients who use the DTX service and the distribution of patients by sex and age, and effectiveness, and how many hospitals are using that DTX service. This slide shows the 7 strategy in development of a DTX platform. We named it Connect. The Connect meaning the hyperconnection, the overseas expansion meaning the global targeting, and norms or DTX standard, making ecosystem or network, and experience, convenience, and the highest workforce team. I may not explain in all these 7 strategies, and I show only a few of them. We are pursuing a hyper-connected system, and we believe that information exchange between the various stakeholders and linking to the real-world evidence from the hospital information system and data security and the user-friendly information system will be the key success factors. And we have to target global market from the early stage of DTX development because the Korean healthcare market is not big enough for DTX companies to maintain their business. So we have to target the global market from the beginning. And networking is one of the most important success strategy. In this project, 6 health IT or EMR companies, which covers almost most of the major EMR companies in Korea, and 9 hospitals and 19 DTX companies, and 7 overseas collaborators, and 4 public health organizations are developing the platform together in this project. And this project is hosted by the Yonsei University Health System. Recently, we organized 2 departments for digital health service. I'll briefly introduce our new digital health organization. The first one is Division of Digital Health, and second one is Institute for Innovation in Digital Healthcare. The first one, the Division of Digital Health, is an administrative organization which manages all the digital health system in Yonsei University. It consists of 4 centers. The first one is Digital Strategy Center, which developed a mid-term or long-term strategy. And the second one is Information Service Center, and this center is managing all the hospital information system and hardware. And third one is Data Service Center. This center is collecting the data and managing the data and curating or sharing the data to inside or outside research. And the last one is Information Security Center. And the second one is the Research Center, Institute for Innovation in Digital Healthcare, IIDH. IIDH's main research area includes 6. The first one is Healthcare Big Data Platform, and the second one is Healthcare Artificial Intelligence, and the third one is Clinical Decision Support System, and the fourth is the Smart Hospital, and the fifth is Digital Therapeutics, and the last one is Health Metaverse. So basically, the DTX platform project will be led by the Digital Therapeutics project team. And the IIDH and Division of Digital Health are closely working together. And Digital Health Center is the name of the place where both DDH and IIDH are located. But in Digital Health Center, there are not only IIDH and DDH. The first of the Digital Health Center, we prepared the research space for making convergence playground for industry, university, research institute, and hospital. We named the orange zone and blue zone, which are open for researchers inside and also from outside. Currently, 10 healthcare startups are working here together. And on the first floor, we have two the closed data analysis room. One is for the analysis of national health insurance big data, and the second one is for the analysis of Yonsei hospital's medical data. And on the second floor, both IIDH and DDH are located. And just a few weeks ago, the hospital medical record team moved to this place too. So all the organizations related to digital service are located on the same floor. And finally, I want to finish my presentation by showing the vision of this project again. We hope our project will help Korean startups to develop, verify, and commercialize DTX service and successfully enter the global market. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kim. We are still ahead of schedule, and if there are immediate questions to the presentation of Mr. Kim, maybe we can now also take them. Are there any questions directly to Mr. Kim? Okay, there's none so far. Okay, then we check whether Mr. Bruns is already on. So he should be online, but whether he's okay, then yes. Okay. Great, then we can start our last presentation. Our last online speaker from Germany is Mr. Voler Bruns. Mr. Voler Bruns, sorry. Yeah, he's a group manager of the medical imaging processing group at Fraunhofer Institute for Integrated Circuits, IIS, in Erlangen. And his title of his presentation is MICAIRA, Computational Pathology for Biomedical Researchers. Please go ahead. Or, yeah, first a warm applause. Also for you.
Yes, thank you. And good evening to Korea. Is the audio okay? Can you hear me? Perfect. Yeah, so maybe we can start with the first slide. Here we go. So I am going to be talking about digital pathology, or in fact computational pathology. So this is the main focus of my research group here at Fraunhofer IIS in Erlangen. And yeah, we have been engaging in a lot of research projects where typically we work together with biologists or clinicians, and then we develop the tool for them. And the tool is called MICAIA, so microscopy AI image analysis, and that's what I'm going to be presenting. So next slide, please. Right, so just very brief about Fraunhofer IIS. So we are located in the north of Bavaria. Our headquarters is in Erlangen. I think the next town here, Nuremberg, is a little bit better known. But we have many, so we are the largest of all the Fraunhofer institutes. We have some satellite sites in Fürth, Dresden, and some other cities that you see on the map. I think the institute is mostly known for developing audio codecs. I'm sure you've all heard of MP3 or AAC, but we do many many different research topics, including CT for industrial applications and also 5G or 6G for communications and for Internet of Things. But also for we are also doing research in digital health, and this is where my group is embedded in the institute. So next slide, please. Right, so computational pathology or digital pathology, what does it mean? It implies that there's also such a thing as not or traditional pathology. And this is actually, at least in Germany, but also in many other countries in the world, this is still the current situation. So the pathologist gets a sample from a patient and let's say a biopsy from a cancer patient, and then it's put on a glass slide. So like this, I don't know if you can see it here. So this is a biopsy, and then the pathologist puts it under a microscope, and then at large power, at large magnification, inspects the sample, and then finds out whether it's benign or malign, or whether it's some subtype of tumor, and what's the best treatment in this case. And this is how it's done today, and it's amazing. Pathologists are really, really fast at inspecting these slides. But it also comes with some drawbacks. Sometimes they have to calculate some scores in order to derive some risks, and this frequently involves counting of cells. And you can imagine that this is a very tedious job if you have to do it manually by eyeballing. Also, then when you're done, the glass slide is put into the archive, so it cannot be stored together with the report. It's also not so easily possible to ask a colleague, at least if it's a remote colleague. And some of these aspects are easier in digital pathology because there this glass slide is first digitized by a scanner, and then the pathologist can do all the assessment on a computer. And this also opens the door for computational pathology, which is the development of algorithms, so using the computer to assist the pathologist, and usually this involves in artificial intelligence. So next slide, please. Right, so the whole slide images are very, very large. The whole slide images is what it's called when you the scan of this glass slide. So they are frequently easily 100,000 by 100,000 pixels large, so very, very big. But when you scale them down and to view the entire slide, it looks like this. But on the next slide, you can see, next slide, please. Yeah, here you go. So here you can see in relation, so if you viewed the sample at full magnification, so at its native resolution, and on the right here, the small dot, this is actually what the monitor, the size of the monitor would be in relation. So I think this gives you a feeling of how big these images are that, we are analyzing in computational pathology. So next slide, please. Sorry. So this is just a small set of scanners that's available on the market today. There are many more. These are basically setup devices, where you put hundreds or thousands of slides in, and then they can be digitized. So again, next slide, please. Right, so these are some screenshots from our Mikaya software. Here in the top left, or in the top center, you see our app center. So this is where we put all the algorithms that can be used for certain analysis applications. On the top left, you see analysis of immunohistochemistry stains. So this is what's frequently done if you want to view some particular proteins. On the top right, you see the analysis of immunofluorescent scans. And on the bottom, some more applications. And I will be talking about two applications in more detail in the coming slides. So please, again, next slide. Right, so one application that I'm going to be focusing on is tumor detection in colorectal carcinoma. Next slide, please. Right, so it's about, so on the left here you see a cross-section of the colon. So the lumen, so that means the inside of the colon would be on the right side of this tissue, and then you can see here very good the different tissue layers. But you can also see at first glance there's a very big tumor that originated in the mucosa, and we have trained an AI to distinguish these different tissue classes. So we've trained it on to distinguish 7 classes here. On the bottom right, you can see the different classes, and yeah, most importantly in orange here, the tumor cells. So the AI can detect tumor, but it can also distinguish all the other healthy tissue types. Next slide, please. So where is this useful? So in a primary tumor, oftentimes the pathologist already knows ahead of time that there is a tumor. So just detecting the tumor here is not, it's already helpful, but it's not the main use case. But from this cartography, we can also derive the invasion depth. That means how deep has the tumor already grown through the tissue layers. We can also locate the so-called tumor invasion or the tumor microenvironment, which is the area where the tumor meets the healthy tissue, so where the immune system fights the tumor or maybe not. So it would be a bad sign if there's no sign of immune cells. Also, the tumor composition gives good insights whether this is a high risk or low risk patient. And also within the tumor area, you could run further analysis. For instance, there's a new trend where you can predict genetic subtypes also from the standard staining. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is a gallery, so an overview from the data set that we have used to train this AI. Next slide, please. And here are some facts. So in total, we trained and evaluated with 160 of these whole slide images. So you may think, okay, 160 images, that's not so much for an AI, but keep in mind how big these images are. So in fact, we cannot feed the entire whole slide image, remind you 100,000 by 100,000 pixels in some cases. So we cannot feed the entire image to the artificial intelligence, but instead we cut it into small pieces. They're so-called patches of only 200 by 200 pixels. And this is what's fed to the AI and what it's trained on. And so this is actually the more important number. So we've trained it on nearly 3 million of these patches. And this is currently also only from one center, but now we are extending this AI and train it on data also from other hospitals. And also we've trained it on various scanners, and I will address next why this is important. So next slide, please. So here you can see one example where we've scanned the same glass slide with 6 different scanners, and you can easily see that the picture, or at least the colors, they are very different. And now you can imagine that if you only train the AI on one particular scanner, then it may be very so the subtle changes in the colors may have a very bad impact on the quality. And this is actually what happens. So we did some measurements, and in fact our AI, the accuracy got really worse when we predicted slides that were scanned with other scanners. So next slide, please. So that means we had to, so you can see here, almost got down to from 90% accuracy or from more than 90 to below 50. So we and all other parties who develop AI for digital pathology have to, sort of fight this problem. And the solution, or one solution, is that during training, you already teach the AI not to spend too much or not to rely too much on subtle color changes. So what we did here is you can see some patches here, some tiles from the original scans on the top row. These are original tiles from the original scanner. And then the bottom rows, these are synthetic tiles that we create by deriving some color attributes like the brightness, contrast, saturation, gamma, and so on. And since we do this during training, In this way, we train the AI to be robust. So next slide, please. I'm sorry, this is the wrong presentation. Maybe you can switch to the one that I sent this morning, or open the YouTube link, because I actually wanted to show you 2 videos. Yes, yeah, okay. Perfect. Thank you. Right, so this is a screencast from our software, Mikaya. So here in this first video, you can see how we loaded a slide from a patient with an adenocarcinoma in the colon. And now, I'm drawing a region of interest, and I'm opening the App Center and selecting the app with this colon tumor detection AI that I just mentioned. Now you can see it's being analyzed. First checks here where's foreground tissue and where's background. And then, tile by tile or patch by patch, the region is analyzed, and then the AI predicts or gives probabilities for each patch, what tissue it belongs to. And in this version here, we're mapping the probability to a color, or to the saturation of a color. So if it's very transparent, that means there's a low probability, so the AI is not really sure. And if it's a really so if the color is really strong, then the AI is really confident. So this is the first version of our algorithm that we did. So here we are really looking at every single patch. So it's already quite fast. Here you can see, okay, now I've hidden all the layers except for the tumor class, and now I can also visualize the tumor, also the output of the AI in a so-called heat map. So this is actually a very popular way of visualizing results of an AI. But what we did is now we worked on making it even faster. So I'm basically doing the same again. Here we are using the same AI model. But now here you can see we are doing this pre-processing where we find these clusters first. And this is 2 advantages. So one advantage is that these clusters now follow the content of the images. So the tissues really look like a checkerboard. So the accuracy gets better, but also we only have to analyze a few patches per cluster. So that means it's even faster because we are analyzing fewer patches. So the accuracy is a little bit better, but and the speed is a lot higher. Yeah, and now you can see in red here, this is the tumor outline. And here in the bar chart, you can see how many square millimeters for each tissue class we have. So next slide, please. I will conclude my talk. So of course, all this work takes funding. So I want to thank the different parties here who fund our research. Some are Fraunhofer internal projects, but some are funded by the state of Bavaria or by the state of Germany. So next slide, please. So the software Mikaya is available for download at mikaya.ai. Can be downloaded. So there's a free version. So the videos that I've showed you, and then the second video that didn't work here, but also many more videos are available on YouTube. So if you just Google Mikaya YouTube, you can easily find them. So thank you very much. For the next slide, please. Thank you very much for your attention. And now I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Bruns, for your presentation. And sorry again, we checked before and saw the video, but I don't know, was probably a mistake in opening the wrong presentation. Are there questions from the floor to Mr. Bruns? Then I have a question. It says it's for researcher use only, or in the title of your presentation, are you planning to commercialize the software?
Yes, we are. So, but even the commercial version will address pathologists and biologists who do research. So most of these algorithms or most of these apps that are in our software really target researchers. They are not meant for the clinical routine. Maybe in some years, or maybe for this tumor detection for the colon. So the first use case that I showed, this would actually be an application for the routine pathologist to be used in a hospital or practice. But also in this case, of course, there are a lot of regulatory requirements that have to be met. And for us as a research institute, it's a bit difficult. But we have a good network, and we will try to find a partner for this. But the Mikaya software itself, it's for researchers.
And there's one more.
Yes, my name is Alexander Renner. I'm the science counsel at the German embassy. And I wonder how long do you think it will take until this becomes a routine in hospitals, that this is really used and that you do not need any longer highly skilled experts. I've heard that here in Korea, even among young students, pathology is already not so much asked any longer, because everybody is afraid that programs like yours will take over and that they are not needed any longer. Do you think this is realistic for the next few years, or does it take more like 20, 30 years from your point of view until this is getting really commercialized for a standard use in small hospitals on the countryside as well?
Yes, a very good question. So I don't think even in 20 or 30 years, the job of a pathologist will be replaced by a computer. So we are already seeing since 1 or 2 years, many IVDR certified, and also the first FDA certified AI application for pathology. So there are many solutions coming out now, but still, at least in Germany, but we've already addressed that Germany is a little bit conservative sometimes. Here, the routine pathology is still is not digital, but some other countries, especially in Scandinavia, but also in the UK or Netherlands here in Europe, a lot is already being done digitally. But still, what the AIs currently do is, so they do one particular thing. For one staining, for one organ, for one tumor type, they can count some cells. But the pathologists, they have to do much more complex things. So I think this is what's going to be happening in the next years. It's like in the car, you have all these assistance systems that make your life a little bit easier, so that the pathologists can focus on the more complex tasks.
Much. I have one more question. You said you cooperate with some hospitals, but I understood that they are only from Germany. Are you also interested also in getting data maybe from Korea or any other countries? So it's a plan also to train the AI on, so to say, data from all over the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. So we've learned that getting the data, and also in our case, getting annotated data, is sometimes the toughest part. So if anyone's interested, I would welcome any connections. Research cooperations with Korea would be very welcomed. But also on the other side, so distributing our software in Korea, of course, would also be important. But currently I don't have any very concrete plans. So if anyone's interested, please do reach out to me.
This was a very good first step to introduce your software, and we hope that also we have some online attendees as well. So feel free to contact us or Mr. Bruns directly. Thank you very much, Mr. Bruns, and we say goodbye. Have a nice day in Germany.
You as well. Thank you for having me.
Okay, then we are finished more or less with our sessions, our presentations. But now, so to say, not less importantly, I would like to open the closing remarks session. And first of all, Mr. Lee Kang-woo from Korea Evaluation Institute for Industrial Technology will give his closing remarks. Yeah.
Einen wunderschönen guten Tag. Mein Name ist Kang-woo Lee. Ich möchte mich sehr herzlich bei seiner Exzellenz Herrn Botschafter Michael Reifenstuel über die Vorbereitung des Forums bedanken. Hello, my name is Kang-woo Lee. First of all, I would like to thank the Ambassador, Michael Reifenstuel, and Science Counselor, Alexander Renner, for preparing this forum. Today, we were able to understand the health technologies of both countries. We will try to lead to a better relationship for mutual benefit and progress, and in addition to digital health, we look forward to R&D cooperation in bio and medical device. Thank you very much to those who participated far away from Germany. Herzlichen vielen Dank. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. E. And now the last closing remark by Alexander Renner, Science Counselor of the German Embassy.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I have to say it was an honor to host the meeting, but you said thank you for preparing the meeting. A lot of people did prepare this workshop, and the part of the embassy was rather small, so I have to thank Oh-KEIT for preparing the meeting. I have to thank the Fraunhofer office for preparing the meeting. I know that this was a lot of work. Especially because it was kind of live streamed on YouTube, and the colleagues from Germany coming in. So thank you very much for doing so. This workshop was for us at an embassy also kind of a preliminary endpoint of a whole series of lectures, events and visits on the topic of digital health in which the German embassy was involved. The workshop exemplified how great the opportunities for cooperation in the field of digital health are. We should take advantage of the potential that was shown and promote cooperation between our two countries. My appeal therefore goes out to the online and offline participants to actively seek dialogue with the other side. Oh-KEIT, the Fraunhofer Office Korea, and also the German Embassy are happy to help in establishing contact and also to arrange further additional contacts. By the way, this does not only apply to scientific contacts, but also to contacts in the business community. Thus, the Korean-German Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Germany Trade and Invest have also expressively asked me to mention them here. So if you are looking rather for business opportunities, please feel free to contact them as well. I would like to express my sincere thanks to all the speakers for their interesting presentation today. I want to highlight Dr. Weiler, who came all the way from Germany. My thanks also go to Oh-KEIT for the good cooperation, and to my colleague, Mrs. Sang-Young Park, who did the preparation for the embassy. Of course, my special thanks go to Ms. Sussane Passow from the Fraunhofer Office Korea, who was the driving force behind the organization of the workshop. I say goodbye to all the online participants and look forward to a dinner together with the offline participants. And I would really ask to stay you here and that we can have a little discussion. And yes, now my really last remark is thank you very much.